Hi, super excited to be part of the Dieline Decoded series, and today we're going to be talking about Plus, which is one of the brands that we launched this year. But before we get into that, I want to introduce myself, talk a little bit about the agency as well. So first of all, hi, I am Danny, and I am the founder and creative director at Someone Others. I founded the company about 3 years ago, but before that did a ton of different stuff in the digital space, print space, packaging space, etc. So I thought that why don't I try and make it really short instead of spending 45 minutes talking about, the last 15, 16 years of my life. So I put it together in 4 slides. So the first slide is Nautica Jeans. This was the first website that I designed, which was in 2006, right after I graduated from school. I went to Pratt, which is in Brooklyn, New York. And then did a couple other sites, and then I went to another agency where the next one that I'm going to show, which I thought was somewhat of a important site in my career, since it was like one of my dream jobs, was designing Converse.com. So this is a little bit of that, which was in like 2008, 2009, I believe. And then moved out to LA and freelanced here for a couple of years. And then I got a job at a beauty startup called Violet Grey. I was on the founding team, was the 5th team member, and worked on, as being the only creative there, worked on a little bit of everything for about a year before more designers came and joined the team. So worked on the website, which it was a digital destination mixing content and commerce, and then so did the website design, also packaging, both for e-commerce as well as there was a brick and mortar store, so packaging for that as well. Advertisements, art direction, photography, did some of my own photography for it. So really had to be somewhat of a Swiss Army knife while I was there and doing a bunch of different things. And then I left there. That was about 2014, I think, when I left. And then I freelanced for a little while. Also did some, tried to do a dog food startup, then got into a world of funding that I did not know anything about, so wasn't able to, I never took it past that point. And so then I ended up going back to freelancing a little bit. And then in 2018, I founded Someone Others. And Someone Others is a brand building studio that is based in both LA and New York. And during COVID, we've been based all over the country. But I'm based in LA, half of our team is in LA, and then the other half is in New York. So then the first question a lot of people always ask is, why is it called Someone Others? Because it's a bit of an anonymous name. And what we really wanted to do was we wanted to put the brands that we were building and the clients that we have first. So it's not so much about who we are, it's much more about the unique individual brand stories that we're telling and that we're designing, and making sure that each of them are unique, and you're not really coming to us for like a shop style. You're coming to us because we can take each of those brands, keep ourselves somewhat anonymous, and then really build those brands to be super unique and fun and engaging. And then here are some of the brands that you might have read about. There was an article in Bloomberg last year, I think it was actually, and talked about some of the brands that we've worked on. So we've worked on Starface, Nugs, Ugly, KNC Beauty, Change, Kosas, and those are just a few of the ones that were talked about in the article that really talked about Generation Z being adorkable. And that's so we are known for creating some adorkable brands. And the way that I define adorkable is like full of color, storytelling, unique points of view, building community, both online and then on social, and just really being able to like stand on their own ground and be a little bit disruptive as well, and have the ability to tell that unique story, which is fun, and not, it's kind of the opposite of what people are calling bland, because those all feel like they're cookie cutter and rinse and repeat, whereas a lot of these brands are so unique and individual. And so then here is some of the work that we've done at Someone Others. So one of our brands is KNC. We do packaging, website, emails, some social, some ads for them. This is some work for Kosas that we did a couple of years ago. Another brand that we've worked on, we did the rebrand for Ipsy. We ran Nug Social for about 6 months last year. And we also do a lot of work for Ugly, which is a sparkling water company that has some really unique flavors. And Starface, which is a pimple-positive, acne-friendly skincare brand that we've been working with for about the last 2.5 years. And then finally, the one that we're all here to talk about today is Plus. And so what is Plus? Plus is a little package with a big clean. Plus Body Wash is a no-bottle, single-serve cleanser housed in a 100% dissolvable sachet. So what exactly does that mean? That means that it leaves no trace. So a little bit about the relationship. Starface and Plus have the same co-founders. So a little bit about the relationship before we talk about the brand and what it leaves no trace and what Plus means exactly. But wanted to show really the whole relationship, how it's unfolded since 2018, and then we started working together in 2019. So for all of those young designers out there and small shops that are trying to get work, like DMs work, and this is a perfect example. I mean, so what I did was I DM'd one of the co-founders, Julie, who she had posted a logo, and we had never met, but we had a lot of similar connections. So one of the brands, she wrote for Violet Grey, and then one of the brands that she had done some partnerships with was Kosas, and then KNC Beauty was someone that she had written about while she was the beauty director at Elle. And so I was like, we have all of these same connections, we're in the same space, I might as well DM her and see what happens. So I did, and basically was like, hey, we should work together. Like, we're in the beauty space, in the skincare space. Seems like you're trying to do something fun. We really like to curate the types of work that we do for each brand, whatever stage they're in. So that might be a fully branded company that's been around for a few years, or a company that has a logo, or a company that doesn't have anything. And she said, hey, it would be great to chat. And then we got on the phone, we chatted, and then we started working together about a month later. So this just really shows that, like, you just have to, like, be confident in what you do and confident in who you are and what you offer. And we're not in a traditional world anymore, so you can DM people, you can email people, you can find them on LinkedIn, you can find them on other social networks. You might just bump into them at a party or at dinner or something like that, and you don't really have to, like, be afraid of talking to them, because you never know where it will lead. And we've been we've been really thankful for the relationship that we've had with Starface and with Plus, and it's really defined a lot of the type of work that we get, and we've been able to really break rules in the D2C space with both of them and have a lot of fun doing it. And so DM'd her end of December in 2018, and then 9 months later, Starface was born. And so Starface, we originally launched it with pimple patches, and pimple patches usually just come in like a single-use sachet, and we wanted to really differentiate that a little bit. And what we really wanted to differentiate was that a lot of pimple patches are all about hiding your pimples, and this is about celebrating them, and celebrating them while you're out in the world. So, like, most people are trying to hide that. Why not put a bright star on your face, use it almost as a fashion accessory, and then go out into the world? And so we wanted to have some sort of a package that held those, that could be out in the world with you. And so that's why we developed this. It's actually just a compact, and then we were able to fit the stars in it, and we named it Big Yellow. And we were able to develop that to really like say, take this out into the world. And then also Big Yellow sort of turned into like your friend through your skincare journey, because it can be somewhat of you can feel like a little bit of an alien, and Big Yellow is, we call it from outer space, and can kind of like help you in that journey that you both might feel uncomfortable together. And so then when we launched the brand, so we launched Starface September of 2019, and then 2 months later, Brian and Julie, the co-founders, came to us and said, "Hey, we have an idea for a second one." And I was like, "Okay, tell me." And so they said, "What if we remove water from soap?" Water is an extremely heavy ingredient. It takes up 90% of soap. And if you think about that journey, so you're basically taking soap from China or Korea or somewhere overseas, you're putting it into a single-use plastic bottle, and then you're shipping those, which are, if it's 90% water, that's an extremely heavy material and a heavy ingredient. You're shipping that, or air, probably not air because it's really expensive to fly it over, but so you're then sending that to the US, and then it sits in a facility in the US, and then you buy it, and then that either gets on a plane or a truck. Again, very heavy, so you're paying a lot for shipping, and then there's huge emissions with that. And so what if you remove water from that? It becomes a much lighter weight product that can ship easier, that is environmentally friendly because you're not wasting so much water. And if you think about like the shower environment, you're already using a lot of water in there. So why can't you use that almost as like gray water in some sort of a bathing soap experience? And so then they're like, what if we remove that? And I was like, how are we exactly going to do that? Is that like a Tide Pod where it's going to be like plastic, and then the water hits the plastic and the soap kind of then activates something like that? And they're like, it could be. It just has to be something that travels light and changes the way we use soap, because soap has, and to clarify, liquid soap, because liquid soap has traditionally come in a single-use plastic bottle. When you're done with it, you put it in the recycling bin, which, like, honestly, most stuff that goes in the recycling bin, unfortunately, can't be recycled. So it goes in there, it goes into some sort of a system that doesn't recycle it, and then it probably goes into the ocean or into the landfill, and you've got like billions of bottles, empty bottles of soap every single year. And so how do you really change that? And so I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but let's give it a shot. Let's figure it out. Like, that could be a lot of fun to have something that's completely different from everything out there and really like change the space, similar to how Starface was changing the acne game. Like, what if we change the soap game? Like, that could be a lot of fun. So let's do it. So the first thing, since this brand did not exist at all, I mean, we were starting from scratch, was we've got to come up with a name. And so we started thinking about a bunch of different names, both Julie, Brian, and then our team as well. We're coming up with a bunch of names. I don't remember who came up with the one that it landed on, but we didn't want it to sound like soap. And you'll see like a lot of things are talking about like Starface happened first and then Plus, just because that's like the history that we were building this together. And so if you look at Starface, for instance, it was really simple. It was product, which is stars, and you put them on your face, that equals Starface. So that really makes a lot of sense. It's super simple. People get it really quickly. And so how do you do that for soap? Like, it's a bit of a different scenario, because you can't just call it soap, because that's like, or you can't call it like, it can't be like too simple. And so then we started looking at the process, because we also didn't necessarily want to have it be water-based, because eventually it might not be removing the water from something, but it might be removing the oil from something, or removing the a certain ingredient that you're adding in later. And so it's not necessarily, it shouldn't just be like, you don't want to use like a word like aqua, because you might not be removing water from something, you might be removing something different. So, but essentially the process was remove water, remove packaging, remove waste. And we're like, okay, and then you add water to it at the end. So if you think about it, like, you're removing, then you're adding. So there's a lot of math going on, and there's a lot of minuses, and then there's a plus. And so we were like, okay, well, what about plus? We basically remove everything, and then you add the water. So it's like, here's the ingredients plus water, or here is this plus you. And we're like, that's kind of interesting. Why don't we sit with it and see how it feels? And we sat with it for a while, and we're like, yeah, this is cool. Like, this could be it. It doesn't sound like soap, which I think all of us really liked, because it was so from a different place that it like made sense to all of us on the team that like that it could be a lot of fun, because it's not like, I mean, if you're thinking about a retail space and you're walking down the aisle, like in the soap aisle, something like Plus probably is going to stand out, especially if you do it bold and you do it thick and you do it like colorful. Like it's gonna stand out, and it's gonna be eye-catching, because nothing around it is going to be anything like it. So we went with it, and then we started working on some logos. So here were some early explorations. The very, very first pass, we really wanted to, the direction that I gave was like, I think it should be, one direction should be like really thick, because a lot of skincare and body care type stuff are not very thick, and we wanted this to be, originally it was going to be geared as a masculine brand, so we wanted something thick, we wanted something heavy. And then the other one was like exploring movement, dissolving, splitting of things, because it's so scientific. And then also the third one was like, can we do something with the idea of water and movement and waves and stuff like that? So these were some of the original explorations that we were working with. And then just to show you like a little bit of behind the scenes of like how I work, when we and how the team works, like when they come to me, then I'll take them on my iPad, I'll screenshot them, and then I'll start circling stuff and adding little notes here. Like, so these are the ones that I want to explore. Maybe we add a little bit more spacing here. Maybe we like, since this is a standard font, like maybe we extend the P so it's like feeling longer. Since everything is like so short, like maybe it can make it feel a little bit different. And so that's somewhat of the natural process for how we go about developing certain things, and the communication between myself and then the rest of the team as well. And so that's a little bit about the initial logo explorations. And then the next thing is visual inspo. And so visual inspiration was an interesting one for this, because there were a couple of things that we wanted to do. So one, we wanted to have something that mimicked plastic, because we're removing the plastic. And so we almost wanted to say like, look, you can have eco, you can have like good for the world that feels like plastic, but it isn't, because a lot of the eco brands out there will have cardboard, they'll have mushroom packaging, all of these different like things, and they feel like that. They're brown, they use black ink, and you can tell that they're an eco brand. They feel a little bit like, that. And so we were like, okay, what if we can put that theory on its head and have something that's super eco, super clean, but that feels like plastic? And so we wanted to do a lot of things that were like see-through, that felt like that clear plastic. And then also, if you think about the shower experience, you have this glass between you and the outside world. It fogs up. It has a little bit of transparency. It has a little bit of intimacy. And then, and so how can you bring that about in visuals and in packaging, and like mix these two worlds together? And so, as I said originally, it was going to be a brand that was geared toward males in their 30s who potentially have an electric car. And so, like, we were using this brand as similar to like a Tesla or to any other like high-end electric cars. Like, those types of people are not your standard like eco-conscious type of people, and that's what we were targeting for. So like, this isn't the brand for someone who is like super eco and super against all of the standards. It's more for someone who's like interested in doing their part They probably travel a lot. They feel like they're doing good by removing gas cars from the environment. They feel like they're doing good by recycling, even though they might not know that like the recycling system is not that great. And so they like want to do their part, and they want to continually do more and more their part. And so that was essentially what we were targeting. And if they don't have an electric car, it's still the same type of person that we use this almost like a gateway into a world where you're like, okay, once you have that one thing, then you want more and you want more and you want more. And so that was a little bit about the visual inspo and then like who we were doing the visual inspo for. And so then we get into the brand book. And so here are a couple slides from the original brand book. And as you can see, we wanted something that was geared toward this person. It was very much like intense and heady and thoughtful and very much like a little bit doom and gloom, but not like too much doom and gloom. But we really wanted it to be like, you understand that the world is not great. You're doing your part to make it a little bit of a better place, but in an intense way and kind of like be in your face. We almost thought like the inspo for us was like, if you're flipping through the channels and you're hearing all of the different voices and you're feeling like that sort of a feeling we wanted in there, but then also like the broadcast voice of someone who's announcing a soccer game where it's very intense. And like, and as they're getting closer and closer to the goal, it gets louder and louder and louder and like much more intense. And like, that's sort of the same thing that we wanted. And then when they finally hit that goal, that's like you finally taking the shower and changing the world while you're doing it. And so then, so at that point we have a name, we have visual inspo, we have the brand book, and we need to work on the packaging. And so the question is, coming back to the very beginning, we want to leave no trace. And so how exactly do we do that? Because it's really hard to leave no trace when you're in a shower and you're dealing with stuff that's going to be like, your hands are wet, it's a hot environment, and so like, yeah, and there's not really anything, like if you do a single-use sachet, which like I'm sure you've gotten like a lot of samples of those types of things where you'll get them and like it's a little like, it's not aluminum, but whatever the stuff is, like that's a little, it's like a little packet, you rip it open, almost like the ketchup things at McDonald's, and then you throw that out. And you can't recycle that, so you just throw that out. But like, so that's kind of one world. And then the other world is like, how do you replace the bottle? Because can you do something that's not single-use plastic? There's a lot of brands out there that have glass bottles, and so then you're having a glass bottle, then maybe you put like a powder or you put like a compressed piece of soap like Blue Land or other brands like that, where you drop like a little pill into the water like an Alka-Seltzer, and then that turns into soap. But that's already been done. And so, those types of worlds have already been done, and we still didn't want to necessarily have the glass, because also if you're thinking about traveling, like you can't travel with something like that. So like it really has to be for everyone. So it has to be for someone who's on the go. It has to be for someone who like it wants to have it in their shower as well. And then we want to have something that's different and like that changes the game. And so at the end of a product's life, there's literally nothing there compared to other brands. You have packaging, you have a wasted bottle, and all of that is still there. And so the first one is easy. The shipping experience, like there's a lot of compostable brands out there. And so that's an easy piece. You can get compostable stuff. You can get it home compostable, which I actually just got a home compost, so I'm testing it out and seeing if all of these packages actually are home compostable. And like the one thing that we wanted to make sure when we did that is that like a lot of home compostable stuff still has like that craft paper or white paper feel. Can we do something that's color? And that when it dissolves, another thing that we have to think about is the ink, and like the ink being eco-friendly, that you're going to put in your dirt, that you're then it's going to turn into dirt that you're then going to put in your vegetable garden, and you're going to grow plants, and then you're going to eat those plants. And so you have to like make sure that you're using colors that aren't going to have any toxins or anything like that when they biodegrade into the dirt. But that one is easy to solve because there are brands out there there are packaging brands out there that are offering compostable or biodegradable or recyclable and compostable or recyclable and biodegradable. So that's like a pretty easy system to like find something that works for your needs, whatever the company's needs may be. But then we get into the shower package. That one's a little bit more difficult because we did not want a single piece of plastic in it, and we wanted it to like literally leave no trace. And so you could have like there are like sugarcane bottles that do technically leave no trace, but then when you start looking at like the shelf life on things like that, they're not quick dissolves. Maybe in my lifetime, maybe not. And so so that wasn't an option. Like we really wanted to change this and like tell a different story. So I got on the trusty Google and I started Googling dissolvable packaging, and it was just like, let's see what is out there that can dissolve or does dissolve in a different industry, and can we bring that into a new industry? Because similar to how Starface, we took a compact, we removed the makeup from it, and then we were able to reuse that package for something else. Can we do something like that here, where we can find something from a different, that's being used for something differently, and then use it and apply it to this? And so I stumbled upon like dissolvable sachets for fertilizer. So I don't completely remember it because it was like 2 years ago, but I think you would just take the dirt and you would put it in the dirt, and then once it got wet, it would dissolve. And so that kind of got me down a path, and I started looking for stuff that was water dissolvable, and I stumbled upon a water soluble paper company that basically developed sachets that can dissolve in water. And so they're really good for like if you're camping. You can also like do cool stuff where you can put soap actually on the paper, like you can paint it on almost like glue, and then that can turn into like little pieces of soap paper, which you can also get soap paper if you want, but those are so like if you're camping and you need to wash your hands, you can have these little pieces of paper because they're basically just wood pulp that dissolves in water. And I was like, that seems cool. Maybe I should order some samples and see if this works. So I ordered some samples and I put it to the test, and you see it goes right down the drain, and that's in 10 to 30 seconds, it literally disappears. And I was like, okay, that is pretty cool. Like that is exactly what we need. We need something that you can literally put down the shower. And what's great about that is the water is running off of your body, and it's already water that is essentially gray water that is doing a second process of making something disappear. So I was like, that is like perfect. Let's figure out how to use it. So at that point, it's like, okay, we've got the logo, we've got the visual inspo, we've got the brand book, and we've got potential packaging system. We just have to like make sure that it works once we have the product. And it's like, okay, well now we have all of those things. We started the process in October of 2019, and we're probably around like February-ish of last year. We're like, okay, let's start figuring out how to develop the product. And then, and like, how do we actually, and so then the first question was, how do we actually do this? Like, how do we take water out of the product? Like, I am not a scientist. I don't know how to do that. We're like struggling finding like, help with things like that, because it's like, that's such an integral part of soap is that, like liquid soap is such an integral part. And so when you're telling people like, well, that's what we want to remove, they're like, well, you can't do that. It's like part of the formulation. And so we're kind of like spinning around in circles, like both on our side and then also on the client side, trying to find like who can help us manufacture this. And then we got hit with a little surprise last year. So we had to basically put everything on hold in March because of COVID. So we were like going full steam ahead, and then, for like 4 or 5 months, and then we had to put it on hold. And we didn't know how long we were going to put it on hold. So I wasn't sure if this was ever going to actually like turn into a brand or not, because, there were so many questions last year that we didn't have answers to. But luckily, we were like, let's pick back up in June. Everyone was like, okay, like whether this is going to end tomorrow or in a year, like we have to continue to move forward, especially like if you're looking at what was starting to develop as like the needs of people during COVID was like, you know, there were shortages on soap, there were shortages on, and like people, you know, there were a lot of shortages, but then also people were like really especially last year in general, like people really realizing a lot of things about how we're doing things is wrong. And like, it was like, okay, like this seems like the right time to be like, okay, we should develop something and come out with something that makes sense, that like, that helps you, that you have like essentially soap at all times if you need it, and then but it also helps you and helps the world and helps the environment, and people are like really like pushing for things like that now. Like people are being much more vocal, so it seemed like the right time. And so we picked back up, and then we stumbled upon some scientists who were I don't remember exactly how we found them, but they were doing nanofiber technology, which was something like maybe we need to do nanofiber technology. And so we started talking to them, and we're talking about things that like I never thought that I would be talking about in art school. We're talking about surfactants, PVAs, nanofibers, melting, freezing, baking, dissolution rates, things that like were new for me. Like I was learning a lot, which is really cool. I think that that's like that's a fun part of all of this, was like that I learned a lot about something that I hadn't necessarily been privy to before, and it was really cool, like to learn something, because a lot of times design can like feel very repetitive. It's like, can you do a website? Yes, I can do a website. Can you do packaging? Yes, I can do packaging. Like that sort of seems what it feels like a lot of times, is like very repetitive. The request is very repetitive, but like it's not very often that someone says, can you figure out how to like make soap dissolve, and you know, from nothing. And so that's a fun challenge, and it's a new challenge, and it's something that like is cool. And so then so we started developing like potential formulations with them, and then what we realized was that the world was super overwhelmed. And so it was overwhelmed with COVID. There was a ton of protests going on last summer. There was global warming, and the design intentionally had tried to be noisy and be like over the top. But what we realized is people probably didn't want that. People wanted something that was like optimistic, colorful, even though we had a lot of color, but was like colorfully optimistic, was fun, had a bit of a smiley face compared to doom and gloom. And we kind of were like digging into the doom and gloom, and like what if that noise was just constantly in your ear, and like and this brand was going to be the release from that, but could we do that in a different way? And so we all agreed that like we probably needed to do something a little bit different. And we needed to have a brand that isn't doom and gloom, but it's optimistic. And also like maybe the demographic is not that guy in their mid-30s with a Tesla or a Porsche. Maybe it's someone a little bit younger. Maybe it's someone who's between 24 and 35, and you know, and not doom and gloom. And so we were like, all right, well, I guess we need to do a rebrand, and we need to do it in a month, because we need to bring this brand to life. And so this was in August, I believe. Yeah, August of last year. We're like, all right, let's do a rebrand. We have to do it in a month. What can we do differently? And like there had been a lot of conversations, so we kind of knew what we needed to do. And so then this is the new brand that we came up with, and we wanted something that was super colorful. It was super fun. It was engaging, and what it did was something that was very different than any other eco brand out there. Because if you look at this, you wouldn't think of this as like the brand that leaves no trace, that has no carbon footprint, that is not like that. You would think that this is some colorful brand that probably uses a lot of plastic, that is like very toy-like, and very engaging, but is not really thinking about the world or global warming at the same time. And so I think that we accomplished that goal of like being super eco, but not in an a standard eco way. You know, there's no cardboard, craft paper looking type of stuff here. So these were just a couple of the pages from the brand book, and then we kept the same logo, but we changed the color palette, we changed the font system, so we have like, you know, we felt that this was more fun, more approachable, more colorful. The colors were a little bit lighter and a little bit brighter than what they originally had been. And then at the same time, we're getting samples of stuff. So then these were some of the product samples that we were getting. And so we get all of these little samples of soap, and you take them into the shower and you test them and you say, this one is good, this one isn't good. We're also doing fragrance formulations. And so we're smelling a bunch of things not in the soap, and we're saying this one's good, this one isn't good. And then we get that infused into the soap, and we're like, this smells good, it needs to be more infused, it needs to be less infused, etc. So those are some of the samples that are on the left. And then on the right, these are some of the samples that we were getting for some of the compostable materials. So as you can remember from like one of the previous slides, I talked about wanting to really mimic that plastic feel. And so you can see that this is see-through and it's plastic, but it's not. And so this is completely home compostable. But it mimics that world of plastic, and you know, it's not craft paper. And it's colorful. We're able to use brand inks, the brand colors inks, and not just like a black or a soy-based ink or a seaweed-based ink. Like, we're able to be super colorful. And so then it all starts coming to life. And so there was, you know, a period where we went into production from like October until end of January, February of this year. And so that's all product production. And so we're getting samples made, and then we're testing them, approving them, and then they go into production. And so we really start to see it come to life. The brand was supposed to launch a couple months earlier, but then COVID had, as I'm sure everyone knows, had major delays. And then also at the beginning of last year, or sorry, at the beginning of this year, the country got hit by crazy snowstorms. And so there were like week or two week long delays in shipping across the country. And so if your product is being made somewhere and then the packaging is being printed somewhere else, and then they both have to meet up at a third place, like all of that just kind of came to a halt because of the snowstorms, and then COVID delays as well. So we were again delayed for a little while, and then we had a shoot planned for March 1st, I believe. And our product showed up the day before the shoot. And so we finally had product in our hands. It wasn't even the final product. Like, we had to put the product into the sachet, and then we had to heat seal it ourselves. Like, these were like the final production ones, but not finished production. And so that all arrived the day before the shoot. We put it together. We had our shoot early March, and then we launched April 13th, I believe. We launched April 13th. Yeah. And so all of that backstory led to the brand launch. And so this is what it looks like. Super colorful, fun. Each scent has its own color system. And these are the dissolvable sachets. So they, you rip them open, you take the soap out, you drop the sachet into the bottom of the shower. It'll dissolve within like 10 to 30 seconds. And then you put water on the soap, that activates it and turns it into a liquid. And then you have a shower. And at the end of it, you turn the water off and there's no packaging left. And so then this is the website design. So again, wanted something colorful, bubbly, engaging. A lot of the websites that we do, we want to have a lot of movement, a lot of animation, a lot of engagement in them. And we try and have as fun of an experience in a standard e-commerce experience that you can have. These are some of the ads that we did. And this poses an interesting challenge because not only do you have to explain in a 15-second Instagram story ad that it is eco and it's good for the world, but you also have to explain how to use it, which is a completely new way of washing your body in with soap, because you have to show all of the dissolving elements and how everything comes together and works together. And so you're telling those two stories in a very, very short amount of time. So that was some of the content that we launched with in April. And then we also got a ton of press. And so hopefully a lot of you saw the Dieline article that was written about Plus when it launched. And then we were also talked about on the Drew Barrymore show.
Converted us to SPF, right? But next we have some green news. We've got the very first zero waste body wash, and it just launched this week. Fast Company reports the Plus body wash comes as a thin, almost weightless, little teeny little sheet, and when it gets wet, it foams up like soap. And even better, the packaging is fully safe to just wash down the drain when you're done, because it's made of natural wood pulp and dissolvable ink. All right, have you started to try any of these waterless products like this?
I have. They're actually a really big burgeoning trend in the industry. This one smells amazing. What's great about them is that when you're transporting a lot of product with a lot of water in it, it is, it can have a pretty big carbon footprint. It's a lot lighter to do things that are waterless. It's actually an ingenious thing. I think we're going to see more and more of it as we progress in the industry.
I can't wait.
Do you have any bar shampoo or conditioner brands that you like out of curiosity?
Yeah, I love the one by Humankind.
Garnier is actually coming out with a new zero water soap. They're just about to launch it. And it's just so exciting because I have to say I get very emotional about this. I am scared for us. I feel like there isn't hope. I feel like the big companies are just too big. I can't do anything as an individual. And when you see this kind of change, you believe that we are going in the right direction. Change is possible. These incredible innovations. Why not? Why are we not looking forward? Why are we staying in the same darn place? This is amazing.
This is, and it feels like a fruit roll-up.
I'm so excited about this. This is so great. Well, we can't go without plucking another fresh gem from TikTok.
Converted.
And then this is some of the other press articles that we got. We got a ton of press articles, which is super awesome. And they just kept coming in and keep coming in because it's such a unique and different experience for the shower. And so we were in Birdie, Fast Company, Forbes, Nylon, Elle, Pop Sugar, In Style, etc. And then this was just some of the user-generated content that started to come in, which it's always fun to see it. It's been in your hands for a while, and then when it goes out into the world and you get to see other people use it is really exciting for us, and that's when it really becomes like a brand, because it comes to life and they get to people get to touch it and feel it and use it and decide if it's a good experience or not. And then so that's a really fulfilling experience for us as creatives. And that is it. So thank you very much.